Hello. So, good morning, everyone. Venerable Tendron has arrived. She'll be coming into the Gampa in just a minute or so. Good morning, everyone online. Hi, Peter. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Doing great. So Venerable Tendron will be coming in soon. We can go ahead and stand. There she is.
So, you know, it's just, when we start with the prayers and everything, it's always good to kind of use that time to correct your motivation or remember your motivation or whatever. So, and these prayers and mantras are meant to help us with that, you know, to kind of, and it's kind of nice to do it. So, take it away, Chant Master.
Always helps to turn the mic on. We'll begin on page 34 in the Gold Prayer Book with Shakyamuni Buddha Mantra 3 times. Tayata mune mune maha munae soha. Tayata mune mune maha munae soha. Tayata mune mune maha munae soha. And now also on page 34, the Medicine Buddha stanza and mantra. Bhagawan, with equal compassion for all, whose name, when merely heard, dispels the suffering of the lower realms, dispeller of disease and the 3 poisons, I prostrate to Medicine Buddha lapis light. Teacha Om Bekanse Bekanse Maha Bekanse Raja Samudgate Soha Teata Om 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 Bekanse Maha Bekanse Raja Samudgate Soha. Now the four immeasurables, also on page 34. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends or hatred for enemies. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends or hatred for enemies. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends or hatred for enemies. Now we'll turn to page 37 on the bottom. And Marty pointed out to me this morning that we're going to do the verse of praise and mantra for Chenrezig and Green Tara, and I didn't realize that we don't have the verse of praise in the Gold Prayer Book, so you can just listen, and those of us who are on Zoom or watching the screen can do the verse of praise, and maybe over time we'll all learn it and we can do it by heart. Not veiled by any fault, white in color, whose head a perfect Buddha crowns in light, gazing compassionately at all beings, to you, Chenrezig, all-seeing one, I prostrate. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. And now Green Tara. Tara liberates from psychic existence. Tu Tara liberates from the 8 fears. Ture liberates from all sickness. I prostrate to the liberator, Mother Tara. Om Tari Tu Tari Ture Soha. 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 And now back to page 34, and we'll do the prayer taking refuge in generating bodhicitta. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings.
Hello. How are we? I'm doing good enough. So, David, can you put me on gallery? So I don't have to see myself. So, much better. Hello, everyone at home. Okay, so, how was your mind this week? Busy. I come to you. Doing well. Samsaric. All right. Did anybody really notice? Good. Yay. Rejoice in that. Because, that's our job, is just kind of notice. And then, give ourselves perhaps a moment to have the power to choose what direction we choose for the next moment of mind when we notice. So that's where all our, the two things we're trying to do. First, we want to be able to be really aware of what's going on in our minds, because that gives us, that ability to go, ooh, I don't think I like where my mind is going. So I'm going to interrupt this and try to go a different direction, or at least I'm going to keep my mouth shut, whatever might be appropriate for you, But it's also this, you take that and you take the effort that we make to try to develop a new habit of mind. Those things together are what makes us actually change our mind. That eventually all those states of mind that we try to interrupt are going to be less and less and less. And our positive minds that we want to encourage will be more and more and more. So it's this all is very logical, because all of our disturbing habits are exactly that. They're habits, so we can change them. So, and this is the logic behind this idea of Buddha potential, that we all have Buddha potential, is that our minds, anybody interested in this? I want to check. Because it appealed to me, so, here we go. So, because Lee asked about it last week, I don't know if I have Buddha potential. I don't have Buddha nature. It's just sort of like, So what is it? What is Buddha potential? Anybody know what it is? Robbie. Yes. Who's got the mic today? Oh, hi. Thanks, Kim.
I'm not going to answer the question as what it is, but I'm going to say that there is a lot of confusion around this subject because it's defined differently in the various schools. There are a lot of different definitions of what it is, so I think it's perfectly okay for people to be confused and feel like they've heard different definitions of it.
Yeah, and that is true. And since we are so fortunate to be exposed to texts from around the world and all the different traditions, we often read, about these subjects from different points of view. And so that can be very confusing as well. What I try to do that comes out of my mouth is, as best as I can, is my understanding of the Gaelic tradition, which is the tradition that this center is in. And that's one of the 4 schools of Tibetan Buddhism, So this is what I've been trained in. This is what I know. So, and I can't say I know it perfectly. So we're doing the best we can. So, the factors that enable us to, well, this is the logic to follow. Okay, so we were just talking about the habits of mind, right? That the mind is changeable. We can kind of let go of certain habits slowly, but we can also cultivate habits that we already have. We already have quality, we have moments of compassion, we have moments of kindness, we have moments of patience. I have very short moments of patience. We have moments of generosity, of loving concern, loving kindness, all those kinds of things. We have those moments. Is everybody pretty convinced that they have at least those moments? Okay, that is one of the ways in which we can feel confident we have Buddha potential, is that goodness we have. That's our basis for developing the mind of a Buddha. First, we have mind. That's part of the requirement. To have Buddha mind, you need a mind. So, this mind that we have, this ordinary samsaric mind, is the mind, if we fully develop it, that it becomes our Buddha mind. So we don't have to change, we don't get a new mind. It's really a developed mind. It's developed in the way that we create the end of our, unskillful states of mind, our disturbing states of mind, and we fully cultivate our positive states of mind, and we fully cultivate wisdom. That confusion that we all have, besides just not knowing, we're also confused about how things exist, and that confusion is often referred to as ignorance, and I'm sure there are a million other translations these days, but it is basically that we don't really understand how things exist, and due to that confusion, we continue to do things that aren't actually going to help us be happy and alleviate our suffering. But the mind is trainable. So we all have that. All sentient beings have that. As human beings, we have a particularly sophisticated physical support for our mind, which allows us to really work with it. A mosquito might not be able to do that in its current life, but it won't always be a mosquito. So, it has hope. It may not have hope at this moment, but we know it is. I don't want to confuse the issue. So the fact that we have mind is one of these abiding things. The fact that the mind is clear and has its whole function is to know. And we all have that if we have a mind. Okay? So what we need to do is get it to know wisdom, get it to know that the unskillful states of mind are exactly that, unskillful. They're not going to be helpful. And we want to try to let go of those habits. And then our skillful states of mind are actually the path to happiness and enlightenment, to become a Buddha. Well, so that faculty of mind, you don't even have to believe in Buddhahood, but the faculty of mind, this ability to know, means that we can learn, And it actually, according to this, our teachings, the mind is, what's that word? Not physical. That's that word. So it has no limit, which we might not believe at this point, but if you think about how you've never had trouble fitting in affection for a new person in your heart, there's always more room, There's just no limit. Mind and heart are the same word, So there's no limit to how much the mind can contain, So we don't have to worry about that. So this idea of expanding our compassion to include more and more people beyond our little circle of friends and family, we can, or community, or city, or country, can become, the whole universe with effort, with practice. And we all already have evidence of this when we are watching the news and it's all about people we don't know, and we can have moments of compassion, while we're watching the news about people we don't know who are in situations we haven't experienced, and da-da-da-da-da. So the fact that they're strangers is not an impediment to having that compassion. This is the logic we need to follow when we get concerned about our capacity, is that we really don't have a shortage of it. And we also are able to, have it arise even when we, don't know anything about the people involved. That's kind of cool. That's really something to feel good about. So if you don't have any clue about the Buddha or Buddha potential, one thing we can focus on is just goodness, the existence of goodness. We see it all the time in ourselves and others. We get worried about the not goodness and worried about the unskillfulness and the negative actions and all this stuff. But in the meanwhile, at the same time, there's all this goodness going on. So we have to if we're having trouble trusting that, we need to really look so that you can develop that confidence. This is part of that developing faith, is because faith really, once you use your logic and reasoning, is about confidence, that you have the confidence that it exists. So when we have moments of goodness, we don't want to have it just dismissed by, that's the kind of thing we rejoice in, something like that, at the end of the day. And we can also use that as when we're feeling low or trashing ourselves or whatever the other habits we have, we can try to sit there for a minute and remember the goodness that we have within, the goodness that exists, and not talk ourselves out of it, to buoy ourselves up. So the mind has this capacity to know. It's also not inherently existent. It's changeable. We can do things. It's not fixed. We're not stuck. We're not stuck with our habits. We're not, we're just unlike the body, which we might be stuck with, we are not stuck with our state of mind because we can influence it. One of the reasons we come to places like this is to help our mind be inspired. That's a lot of what the Buddha's teaching about. When we pray to Buddhas, it's really about, please, let my mind be inspired by your teachings. Because we know the Buddha can't come in and, clean it up for us, or make us do it right, none of that. We have to cultivate that. But the Buddha's example, the Buddha's teachings help us be inspired and to maybe not follow what we've always been doing, but introduce some new ideas of how we might approach things, new perspectives. And we're capable of learning that. These are all it is about our Buddha potential. We have the faculty for it now. It isn't that, that means, okay, I'll be enlightened now. And it isn't quite like that, but we have the basis for it. We're not going to need to change our minds to become a Buddha in the sense of, I need a different mind. That isn't what happens. The Buddha started exactly like us. with that confusion, that samsaric mind, that, blah, blah. Doubt, I'm sure there was doubt. I'm sure there was all sorts of unskillful states of mind, all that stuff. But Buddhas have have found a way to cease the things that get in the way of being enlightened. And fortunately, they didn't keep it to themselves. So we have the teachings to help guide us, to help us get there. And what's the great news is, we don't have to wait till we're there to have some relief from suffering. Does that make sense? Hi, Lee. I brought this subject up for you because you mentioned that not having confidence. So, yeah, And one of the things I've always had trouble with is this idea of the power of holy objects and holy beings that people who are very energetically attuned can kind of feel that energy. I know lots of people who, they met Lama Zopa Rinpoche and they could just feel that positive energy. I'm not one of them. This is, I haven't fully cultivated. So, although I've experienced taste of it. Well, the way this is explained, or the way I've heard it explained, is that there's an energy to our minds that radiates. You know how, like, when someone's in a really angry mood and they walk into the room, that it kind of seems to filter out. And then, if we're not adverse to someone's good mood, that can also filter out, unless we're in that cynical, it's a Pollyanna, who let her in? So, but this energy is, the mind isn't physical, and we associate energy with physicality, but our minds are subtle, that really subtle mind that goes from life to life is also, it's always with a wind energy. And that's subtle energy. And wind, don't let that word confuse you. It just means movement. It's what helps the mind move. So, but that radiates energy. So when you have this idea of, what good does it do to say mantras, or what good does it do to, think of others and wish them well and all that stuff? Well, we really can send out positive energy. I remember when I was in Pleasant Village years ago, and I had a very good friend who was diagnosed with breast cancer back, and she was here, And so I kept trying to think about how I could send some healing or helpful or hugs, whatever, to her from across the ocean. And then so what I'd visualize is, of course, our earth, the land is all of one piece, right? It's just under the ocean sometimes, and, sometimes it takes the form of mountains, but it's all, So during walking meditation, because in Thich Nhat Hanh's tradition, he would say, you're planting, you can either walk with anger, or maybe you can walk with peace, and you're planting peace. So I would just imagine that every time my foot hit the ground, I was sending healing energy out, through the, and it would reverberate and get all the way here, And it was just a nice image to work with, that apparently, like, enlightened energy can do that. So, because it's the power of all the enlightened beings. But so holy objects have all these form objects within them, like our stupa is full of holy objects. And it's, so through the power of the influence of the prayers and everything that's been said with them, or the meaning of the words, if there's sutras in there, this kind of thing is part of what we can exchange our energy with, so that when we circumambulate, we're getting some of the power of that energy. So, I don't rely on this aspect of it very much because I'm really a cynical person at heart. So, I have to rely on the logic of, okay, I've got this mind. And I have to admit, even though I'm cynical, I do believe in the power of, negative energy in a room being contagious, positive energy in the room being contagious, that obviously something can happen with that. And we see it in groups, like like the rock concert, and the drugs might have a little bit to do with that. But, it also can just be, the energy around the music and the fact that everybody's come out for a good time, all that stuff. And then we see it in mob mentality, riot mentality, that negative energy gets caught, and then people do things that they never would think about doing on their own. It's just they're caught up in that energy, So we have that going, so that's available to us. We have the fact that the mind has goodness. We have goodness in our body, speech, and mind already. So we can continue to train our mind to go in that direction more and more. And it feels good too. So it has its own, positive reinforcement quality. So we have that factor at play. Then we have the fact that this is, one of the things, and I don't know whether this will make sense or not, maybe none of this makes sense, but I had it. Oops. It's somewhere. Yeah. Okay, the fact that the mind doesn't exist inherently. It's empty, like everything else. I have a point, I really do. What is taught is that all our disturbing states of mind are adventitious. Isn't that a word you're all familiar with? What does it mean? Opportunistic, okay. Or not. So adventitious means it's temporary. I don't know why that word. I don't know why they don't say temporary. But they say that they can be removed. Our ignorance can be removed. They are not permanent to the mind. It is not the mind's nature to have these habits. So they can be removed. So that's the quality of all minds. So when we think, oh, I'm just a terrible person, I'll never quit yelling at people, I'll never be, patient, I'll never be whatever, well, it's true. If you keep practicing those things, it'll keep happening, but it's not true that you can't change it. You are not stuck with it. It just may be very effortful to change it, And if you believe in past and future lives, you have time to change. So don't lose hope. So, questions? Yep.
There's a question on Zoom from a student, and she wants to know, what is the samsaric mind?
That's the mind that's stuck in cyclic existence, this circle of birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, but it's the unenlightened mind. It's an ordinary mind. I don't know, does that help? Anybody else have a better description? All right, we're going to have to stick with that one. So, it's a mind that's infused with ignorance. Confusion. This is, what we're getting at when we say that, that We all want happiness and we all don't want to suffer, but we don't know what we're doing. So we get it wrong. We're doing things that actually are chasing suffering rather than happiness. And that's due to our ignorance, this confused mind, our fundamental confusion about, our mind discriminates between self and other. That's our habit. As soon as we think, me becomes a little more important than other, We also put importance to mine, my family, my car, my this or that, my seat, it's just like we're very good at that. And we inflate the importance of anything that's me or mine to the, so that we see other people's me and mine as less than, And we even think it makes sense. Of course we need to take care of me and mine, otherwise me and mine won't get what they need. And the Buddha said, well, that's one of your big mistakes, because that's not how it happens. That we really need to not have a difference. It's sort of like in all traditions, how we learn from when we're kids, you treat others as you wish to be treated. That because of that equality, of that everybody wants the same things. I mean, not literally the same things, but we want to have a state of contentment, a state of non-fear, a state of, enough. And the way we're going about getting that is distorted by our confusion. I also had a point here. I'm not very mindful today. I can't keep my mind. So I'll look at my notes as if I can. Shucks. Well, I think a Buddha knows it. So, but he can't speak for me. Anyway, any other questions about Buddha potential? Yeah.
I just had, is that on? Yeah. Okay, a couple of comments.
Okay.
On that. One thing that helped me, I would be like, me, a Buddha? Mm-hmm. What? Is that it's not the me that's going to become a Buddha, the me that I hang on to and that, is all me-centered.
Right.
And that really helped me to realize, we're not talking about me, that me, that's going to be this Buddha. Even though it's the same mind stream, it's a mind. And the other thing that came up while you were talking, I heard Lama Zopa one time do a teaching, I think it was on a Nungne, where you do a lot of prostrations. And he was talking about when you're on the ground, visualizing that you're sending energy out and compassion out to everyone. And especially if you're doing 1,000-armed Avalokiteshvara, that you can kind of feel your arms being 1,000 out. And it was just so beautiful and has really helped me with prostrations.
And this is the thing, all these little meditations we have and rituals we have, they're not meaningless. They really are about cultivating this sense that we have this potential and that we already have positive energy to send out. It's just not perfected, So, and this idea that the me that right now is not the me, the Buddha me in the future, is the same as the me of right now is not the me of the next moment. You know, and not the me of the next moment. So in that sense, it's not the same me. In another sense, why is it not the same me? That's a question. I kind of worded it weird. But.
I think when we actually look at it even from like a physical, medical point of view, every moment we are producing new cells and other cells are dying off. And therefore it's impossible for us to be exactly the same moment to moment.
That's right.
And if I look at my own life, I can see what I was like in elementary school, in secondary school, in my first job, my last job, and they're not the same people, but they have a thread of continuance.
Yeah, so it's exactly like that. I mean, this is part of what is the ignorance of our self-grasping. We grasp at this idea of a cell that somehow is permanent. You know, that yes, okay, so our bodies changed from when we were a baby to now, you know, But, you know, there's a me that is the essence of me and the When we hold on to that, we don't maybe think that way, but we grasp after it as if that exists, and it doesn't exist. That's the part about emptiness. We don't exist in some permanent way. You know, just like you can wake up one day in a different mood than the day before, and it changes your whole flavor of the day. But even during the day, we can be quite different from the morning to the afternoon to the evening, you know. So this is where I loved what Tenzin Lama said, you know, when she was talking to Geshe-la, you know, a while back about this idea that if we keep measuring our mind by our feelings, you know, you'll never catch up. But if we instead measure ourselves by our deeds, our behavior, body, speech, and mind, you know, then, you know, that's a better measure of our progress or not progress. But, you know, so this is the thing. We're not, and everything's like this. It's kind of shocking when you learn that, you know, that our experience of objects is totally incorrect. It's just convenient, you know, that we perceive these things so we can actually pick them up, because if you try to pick up the actual smallest particles with it, you know, we couldn't do it because we're not fast enough. But this has tremendous power. This is where power is, that this changeable nature of ourselves, of all phenomena, means nothing needs to stay as it is. And we can develop our full potential of our good qualities. We can develop our wisdom, again, to the fullest extent of what there is to know. You know, it just takes a lot of time and practice and not giving up. Which is part of the importance of doing daily practice and daily rituals of saying the refuge prayer, you know, trying to think about compassion and trying to extend our compassion, is that we need that kind of repetitiveness to make new habits. And it's funny how it really works. Like, even if you're kind of slack, you know, you have a slack, like I often do when I'm doing my daily practices, you know, my mind's kind of like all over the place. It still has an impact, you know, in terms of me, that it is much more likely now for compassion to arise when I'm in difficult situations rather than annoyance. Not always. Don't watch me drive. But, you know, if I have strong fear presence, present, it's much harder for me to maintain a clear, calm mind. And so I have to really practice that as well, so that I, don't let that condition control me, so I can choose to still be patient and nice and not annoyed. That's my excuse for being an annoyed driver. Because I'm always afraid that, any moment now, either I'm going to get in an explosive wreck or I'm going to see someone else get in an explosive wreck. But he said we need to know these things about ourselves so we can go, this is a dangerous condition for me. So you set an intention when you get in a car and start to drive, realizing, okay, this is your opportunity to practice, and sometimes we do better than others. But we also need to inspire us to believe it's worth it, right? We really need to think about, why does this matter? And we need to practice that too. We need to, inspire ourselves, set our good motivations, do all these kind of things in order to get there. So it's not just when we get home from work, so we can be a crab all day long at work, but then, or the reverse, we're polite all day at work because they're paying us, and then we get home and we take it all out on our family. That's, I can attest to that's not a good strategy. So, what do you think? I assume we're all thinking. Take a moment to notice. What kind of state of mind are you in? How many thoughts are arising in this moment? I want to see you count.
Me again. Today is actually 6 months since we first attended the Kadampa. And I know the differences between the me that was here that day and the me that's here today.
So practicing, this is part of the idea of rejoicing every day at the end of the day about all the kind of nice stuff that you perhaps thought about doing, maybe even said or actually did, that we rejoice about those things so that we see, because we are in such a habit to focus on the negative. We focus on the negative ourselves, we focus on the negative of others, and this is to our detriment. So we need to practice this other mind. And one of the things, we can, to help us do that, does everybody have a smartphone? Well, set an alarm. And if you can set one that's random, set, like my text text message sound, it's this little tiny sound, like, I don't know whether it's bamboo or radar or something like that. But, it's a really not too annoying sound, and it's soft. But you can set something so that then you go, let me remind myself of what I value. Let me breathe, It can take seconds to just regroup, remotivate, and live your life as opposed to plow through, So it's just, and we have these tools, and it is so helpful to use them to what matters to you, not to what matters to the commercial world or the business world or but what really matters to you, what you're trying to develop. So a consistent kind of calm, relaxed, comfortable mind helps us do everything in a kinder, gentler way. So the more we can kind of pause and remind ourselves this moment is not the end-all, be-all moment of my life, relax. And you have to you have to develop your own language of support and encouragement for yourself. You know, as a very anxious person, I would always have to go, don't worry, it's okay that you're anxious. I'd have to first, say it's okay. It's okay that you're anxious instead of, so, and then I'd have to go, and don't worry, I won't do anything that makes it worse. And you can also, talk to yourself about, like, oh, I'd really like to be loving towards my family. And where my mind is at this moment is not a good condition for that. I want to take a breath and remember what's important to me, not to anybody else. And then we want to be able to recognize those kinds of conditions that seem to divert us, so that we can be, kind of spot them coming, so that we can maybe pause before we're drowning in them, So it's all about giving ourselves the mental space to choose, to choose what will benefit our states of mind in order to really live in a state that we want to, instead of being driven by our, whatever just habits arise, pulled this way and pulled that way, which, just, and we kind of miss our life because we're just somewhere else all the time. Does it make sense? Just that these little brief things really help our overall quality of our day. Just pausing, even when you're going through really, difficult times, being able to pause, breathe, oh, I'm still here, I wish I wasn't still here, whatever, but, you have to really, kind of correct the direction of your thinking. And the more we correct it, the less we'll need to, because it'll become the new habit.
There is a psychological theory regarding why we tend to see the negative, and it is that if we review what we've done and we see the negative, then we're in a better position to fix it and not repeat it the next time. So from an evolutionary and Darwinian standpoint, those that tend to not repeat the same mistakes survive better than others. So that negative thinking and a review of what we've done in terms of what went wrong is a survival technique.
Which we don't need anymore.
Right, so we can flip the script on that and say, yeah, I wasn't very skillful, instead of, man, I really screwed up. I really screwed up, but what actually happened? What did I do?
Yeah.
So that I can say, I guess I will try not to do that in the future.
And that's the other practice we need to develop, is reflection. Sometimes in the moment, we might not have time to do that, space to do that, but this is why we want to reflect. That's part of the before you rejoice part. You look at what didn't go so well today, what are those clues, what can I learn from this, and how can I change it, And when you first start looking, what do you find? If anybody ever was a beginner. I'm sorry, I have something in my eye. Yeah, go, microphone, that direction.
So when you first...
It's on.
When you first start, for me, when I first started paying attention, I guess, I would see mostly bad behavior of the mind, kind of just like, oh, why am I thinking this about this person?
Right.
Or why am I... And you start to notice those things. And then eventually, and at first I would be upset with myself, until eventually I kind of realized, like, okay, that's just part of it.
And you see, it's interesting that that's usually what we notice first. What a mess my mind is, you know? And it's true, your mind is a mess. I'm not denying that, but this is why we also have to practice noticing the good stuff, because that's not our habit. Just like Kim said, that we have, even an evolutionary habit, so that we can spot danger and survive and all those and reproduce, we need to figure out that, because that's the survival of the species, all this kind of stuff. Obviously, we're not, one of the point, I think it's in the Book of Joy, where His Holiness says, there's more goodness than badness in the world, because there are a lot more people. We'd all be dead, if we were getting worse. Because we have no shortage of wars, no shortage of killing, but yet we're still growing our population, not the other way around. I thought, boy, that's a whole different perspective on evidence that we're not growing our evil at a different pace than our affection. So it's kind of cool. We have to think about these things, because we want to be informed, we want to be, get involved in issues that need changing, in not just in our own lives, but in the world, But we also need to remember that the reason we're worth saving is because we're not just that. There's still a lot to save. So it's worthwhile. And we need to know that, Elise.
What you're saying is all really true. And when we each think about ourselves every day, it's so hard to maintain that positive view of ourselves and to see the good things. And I think that's why it's really important to have other people around you who have mindsets and values that you understand to be ethical and positive, because we need other people to sustain us. We're
social animals.
Interdependent. We're
Yes.
interdependent. And, in isolation, you can really go down the drain fast, or, or be unrealistically narcissistic. But, other people keep us grounded. And that's why, we come to Kadampa
Yep.
Center. That's why we, go to events that have value. It helps to strengthen us, and it helps us to see it in others, how it looks, and know that we can be like that, because we're the same.
Exactly. And so this is one of the things, one of the things I, recommend it when you're isolated or feeling lonely or depressed, is to get out, even though you don't want to. You get to go to a group that's, that you're interested in, whatever. I mean, you try to find some connection and make use of that. And you have to try it again and again until you're not feeling so out of place, that it's not, usually when we're isolated, we develop some habit of discomfort when we're with others, because we've been avoiding that, or we just, circumstances or whatever. So it's, these are all ways in which, this whole idea of this is sort of one of those, what's the point? We want to think about how you remember that episode of Twilight Zone, for those of you who are old, where the guy loved books, and then, then there are no people left, and he's at the library and he steps on his glasses. We need to remember that it's not enough to just be around the people you want to be around, or be around, just get exactly what you want. That's not how, it works. We really need to be able to get comfortable with everyone. We want to develop, you might want to consider, I don't know if you want to or not, but you could consider what His Holiness's strategy of seeing everybody as a potential friend. And just start from that place. Just assume this could go well, It doesn't mean that you're not going to notice if they turn out to be a swindler, whatever your fear is. But it's just that, if you come from a place that there's going to be common ground here. We don't need to assume there can't be common ground. And we often do that when we're around people who don't have the same opinion, who don't have the same beliefs, all this kind of stuff. So it's really helpful to look for the common ground as opposed to the differences. Yeah.
I'm reminded of someone I worked with years ago, and I would fix computers, software, and he would fix the hardware. And everyone loved Bob, and he was very even. And we said, Bob, how do you do it? You're going to see X, and we all know that's not a good experience. And he said something that really stuck with me. He said, I think of how I'm going to feel later about what I did and about myself. And that makes a difference.
See, we want to develop that habit because that's where happiness is. It's not about what we get. It's not about external things. It's about what we do, how we think, how we experience. It's really not about out here. It's an internal state. It's an inner state. So it's so important to keep that forefront. That's why setting motivations, reflecting back, rejoicing in the good stuff, all of that is helping us develop this habit of the possibility of change, the possibility of actually enjoying something that in the past you would have thought, no way, like when you grow up and you finally discover your parents are people too, and you understand, if you're a parent, all of a sudden understand how hard it is to be a parent, so then you have a little more compassion, for your parents, and suddenly your family events aren't quite such a drag, So it's just, this is the possibility, so the thought that you can, not worry about a perceived difficult situation, because that's not your focus. Your focus is, I want to watch how I act, how I behave, how I think, not worry about how someone else treats me or speaks to me, that kind of thing. Does that make sense? Now that's quite a skill. He probably didn't practice it in one life, So it's just, but this is doable. And just because we'll fail at it again and again and again doesn't mean we can't get the hang of it. Think about all the things you've ever learned that were hard to learn, that were difficult to learn. And now you don't even have to think about it. I remember when my father had Alzheimer's, and at some point he came out of the bedroom and he had put his shirt on as pants. And he's going, this can't be right, It's heartbreaking. But it was one of those things, that's right, we learn that. Everything we do, we learn. My dad had to teach me how to tie my shoes, back when shoelaces were a thing. And it was hard. And then I also couldn't tell time on an analog clock, which is sort of all we had at the time. So, and he helped me with that. And my father was almost never in town, so these memories really stick out, you know. But, you know, I found tying my shoes really hard. And I can't imagine finding them hard now. This is the mind. The mind, this capacity we have, it can know things, but it doesn't just magically happen. We learn them, you know? So the mind can understand, it learns, it retains, you know, all those kind of things. So we want to develop confidence in that. That just because we've been doing something a certain way for eons doesn't mean we have to do it for eons more. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't worry, it's Donna. She has her own.
I think one of the benefits of becoming familiar with our habits of mind, especially our negative habits of mind, is that then when they arise, we can see it. Like, you know, oh, here's depression. I know depression. I've been depressed lots of time. And I used to be subject to depression. But now I see what it is, and I know that I can think, well, this is temporary. I've done it before. Yep. It's past. I can let it go. Or, you know, oh, I'm really impatient with this person. I'm going to give myself a minute to pause. So just having that, making that conscious effort to become familiar with our own habits of mind can then help us see
and
them
the conditions that they tend to arise.
Oh, yeah, those two.
So we can prepare ourselves and go, okay, I know that I have a little trouble in this situation, so I'm going to give myself extra space. And then you give yourself a motivation before it happens. You know, what would you like it? How would you like it to go? Not how you would like them to, the other people involved, but how would you like to be? You know, and you work on it, and then you have to really work on. Oh, there I go again. You know, oh, there's my mind. Oh, yeah, I'm very familiar with you. I don't have to listen to you, but there it is. And we don't have to be angry with ourselves when they arise. These are habits. They're going to come up. You know, we meet the right conditions, they come up, and we have to give ourselves some space to do something differently. So how do we do that? How do we practice? I can talk all day long, but what do we need to do? Yeah.
I feel like one of the things that you said, which is to use your smartphone or Apple Watch or whatever device to set a reminder, because then if you're into it, then you will come back out and it'll maybe make you mindful. Because I think if you are more mindful, then you will realize, oh, I was going down that rabbit hole, and I need to be more like Bob and see things. Well, envision it will be a positive experience, because I do think, and I just started a new career, and generally as a realtor, and so when I meet with people, sometimes I think, this is just going to go badly. But if I change my mindset, I will have a better experience, because I will envision potentially helping people. And I think that's, to me, one of the things that you can do is just to disrupt or interrupt the pattern. And if you set 2 or 3 reminders a day, that would go a long way.
Yes, it would.
And I think you had said, give yourself grace or the space to fail, because that's the only way you will.
And it's going to happen.
Right.
You know, and that doesn't mean anything in and of itself. You know, we give way too much importance to, you know, the fact that we have a habit. You know, if we're trying to change it, we want to really rejoice in that. So yeah, it's like, and the other thing is that, so we need to practice, that pause, and we may have to remind ourselves, and we need to practice motivation. Really think about, oh, who do I want to be today? How do I want to experience today? What mind do I want to bring to things? And you think about your schedule and you think, oh, there's a meeting, and I tend to get bored in meetings, or, there's a tension in meetings or whatever. So how can I prepare myself to be a little more relaxed when I walk in the door and not assume the worst? Yeah, I mean, how many people walk into a meeting going, oh God, I can't believe I have to get in this meeting again? Well, that's just not a good condition for it to go well. You've already started it badly, so, odds become good that it'll end badly as well. And you might have to think about the times when some event that you're used to struggling through goes well. And then you have to go, oh, that's a surprise. And you have to ask yourself, why is that a surprise? Oh, because I make this assumption all the time that it's going to go this way. And maybe I'm part of why it goes this way. So maybe I can influence the experience also by bringing in a more open, who knows what will happen attitude. And we have, so we need a good, the bookends of the day, setting a motivation in the morning, setting a good intention, and then checking in at the end of the day, and rejoicing in all that went well. So, and by well can be just, oh, I noticed I was getting irritated. That's it. You don't have to say, and I did something about it. Awareness is first. Pausing, learning how to do something different, practicing. So there are many, many little steps you can rejoice in. What other things can we do?
I was thinking about, I used to have a bumper sticker on my car that was from the Dalai Lama that said, "Loving kindness is my religion." Mm-hmm. And it was a reminder to me when I was in traffic to try to live up to that. I felt like there were certainly behaviors that would contradict that.
That's the point of these robes, isn't it? It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm a nun.
Right. Yeah, these kind of reminders in the environment can be very helpful, and right. So I won't go on from that. One other thing that came up while you were talking, I think it's Rick Hansen who wrote Buddha Brain, which was some of what Kim was talking about, says that negative brain is like Velcro, and that our positive brain is like Teflon. I always thought that made it easy to kind of summarize.
Yeah, so we need a bowl at the end of that, that water slide of noticing the good stuff, so. Yeah, so reminder, that is one of the purposes of robes, is you look down and go, I can behave better than this, or maybe I should get it right. I have a license plate at the front of my car that's a smiley face. And you might think that's because I'm a nice person, No, it's because I was standing in the DMV line it was the longest line and it was taking forever. And I was just getting crankier and crankier, and I just knew by the time I got up to the person who was going to help me that I'm going to not like them. So I saw the smiley face thing and thought, turn your mind towards that. And I bought it as a reminder of how, it's possible to, even when you've been waiting for a long, long time, and I had a million excuses for why I was miserable. Long list, that you can still be pleasant throughout it all, And so, I have the smiley face, and sometimes, unfortunately, it's the only pleasant thing about me driving. But it's, it's still, these are ways to help ourselves. You stick a Post-it note on your dashboard You know, you have something to remind yourself, oh, this car could kill me and others. Maybe I should drive carefully. I may be late because I left late. I don't need to make up the time in this dangerous vehicle. You know, we can do things to help us. You write, you know, on the mirror, you know, it's better to enjoy a moment than to prove you're right in a moment. You know, it's you know, whatever it is you got to work with. You encourage yourself to remember it because you are worth it. We need to remember that we matter because we are interdependent. We all matter. Our energy matters, and our happiness matters. You know, you think about that energy that we radiate. If everybody on the planet is happy, would we be trashing the planet? Probably not. You know, I mean, it's just, this is part of that energy shift we want to make. Elise.
What you said is exactly true, and a little thing that can prove to ourselves how powerful we are and how important our energy is if you just imagine yourself going down the hallway and another person is coming toward you that you've never seen before, will never see again, you don't know them, and they look at you and they smile, how it makes you feel.
Yep.
Versus if that same person came and looked at you and sneered, how does that make you feel? Even if it's nobody, you don't even know them, and it's a split-second encounter. We have that same power and energy and effect on other people.
That's right. And that's part of what doing the purification practice about regret, about really recognizing, oh, I did this that was harmful. And one of the ways that really helps me really take responsibility is remembering the face of the person I said something harmful to. You know how that shift can occur? You know, there's something about the eyes shift or the expression shifts. You can just feel the sinking, you know, if you look, you know. Really? You want that effect on people? You know, no, I don't want to have that effect on people. It's just like Elise is saying. And but the difference is when, you know, when you uplift people, how much better you feel. So you can, like His Holiness says, you can be selfishly, what's the word? Yeah, that's it. Selfishly wise. That's what he says. That's also enlightened self-interest. All these different phrases. So these are the ways we can help ourselves remember. Good morning, Don.
Yeah, it was just to come back around to the original question about Buddha nature that it's been coming spinning around in my head the last few minutes. One time I heard His Holiness explain it very much like you did, that, you know, for example, we all have a little bit of compassion, kindness, wisdom, so on, all the positive qualities. We all have some of those. They're only 24 hours in a day. They can be cultivated, and if we work, we could literally fill our days up with positive mind states just by virtue. I mean, you can imagine it's possible. And the other thing that even that doesn't convince me, but I like it. Sounds good. You know, I still think, you know, well, not me. I mean, right. Enlightenment's possible, but not me. You know, but one of the things that's given me probably as much inspiration as anything is some of the work that they've done at the University of Wisconsin with Matthew Ricard and Davidson and those people. They've done PET scans on Matthew Ricard, meditating on compassion, and you can see the prefrontal cortex light up, and I can see permanent changes in the brain. This whole notion of neuroplasticity is basically saying, hey, we have Buddha potential. We can change our brain, which, you know, affects our thinking. So that's about as close as I can get. The other, you know, thing that helps my mind is just to have been around extraordinary people like His Holiness Lama Zopa, I think, manifest this sort of emptiness of the mind that is equated with Buddha nature. But still, I come back to the neuroplasticity example.
Yeah, we're so fortunate to have those examples now. So reading about neuroplasticity is a very helpful thing, because it really, first they can show you how it actually changes, and people who've been meditating for years on compassion and things, that it's a much faster process for them for this, and the areas that light up are bigger. The areas associated with compassion have grown, they're bigger, and so it has lasting change. So it's I encourage anybody to read that kind of stuff. Like, look up Richard Davidson in Google or something. You can find articles. Did you want to add to that, Michael?
Yeah, we were speaking about bumper stickers earlier, and one of my favorites when I see it is change your mind. Yep. Just as simple as that. My wife is very fond of finding opportunities to remind me of, right in the moment, do you want to be right or do you want to be kind?
Or
of course,
possibly happy.
The answer is kind, but there's part of me, especially with her, that says, I think I can be both.
And you just proved yourself wrong. So, hey, it's just like, I can completely relate to that, Mike. But so it is worth, like whenever you're getting ready to say something sharp to your partner, or your child or something, it's so worth it to kind of go, oh, that's right, I love this person. Could I possibly show it in this moment? So it's just, and they love me. It's really interesting. But I think that, so this idea of neuroplasticity, that's another way to help ourselves. And then also, instead of watching whatever junk TV you watch, or whatever movie you watch, or whatever, I don't know, I used to, for a while there, I could say Game of Thrones or something, but I don't know what's current. So, instead of watching that, you watch something that's inspiring. Because YouTube's full of it. You don't have to work at it. You can easily just type in the name of somebody you admire and listen to a talk to help you get in a different frame of mind. It's a much better use of your time. And again, you are worth it. Your mind is worth it. It's the most important part of the parts of body and mind, is your state of mind. So, okay. We're at that time where we get to do a little rejoicing about our efforts and then dedicating the positive potential of those efforts to be of benefit to others. And so keep in mind anybody that you're concerned for, that is ill, or, and everybody in the world that's suffering, but that it's, our prayer list, everybody on the prayer list, anybody who's asked you to pray for them, to include them in that circle of concern, while we read the dedications, and of course, wishing our teachers to have very long lives, so dedicate some of it to that too. So thank you.
Okay, we'll go in the Gold Prayer Book to page 246 and say the dedication verses.
Interruption. This is... I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt this program with a commercial announcement. Are there any announcements? I forgot that part. Sorry.
There are always announcements.
So we'll pause. Be patient.
Thank you, Venerable Tendron. Just want to announce, as people know, that our renovations are actually getting ready to start in the very near future. Our much needed renovations, improvements, remodeling, deferred maintenance to the center that we've used so well but so hard over the last 20 years. And let's see, David Strevel is the project manager. Do you want to, anything you want to add? Okay. Start on Tuesday. Our programs will continue uninterrupted. We'll still have access to the Gampa and the bathrooms while this is going on. And people have been very generous in supporting this. And if you'd like to make a financial contribution to help cover the cost, you can go to our webpage and click on donation, donate in the right upper corner. And that takes you to a form that you fill out and mark your donation for a special renovation fund. There's a pull-down menu that'll help you to do that. It's very easy. And thank you to everyone who has already donated.
One more quick announcement. In the true nature of change and impermanence, Venerable Tendron La will be heading back to Florida soon. So next Sunday, the 22nd, will be her last Sunday teaching. So at the end, we'll have an opportunity to offer katas, and we have loaner katas here you can use, and any other offering you would like, notes and things like that. And there's a potluck, so stick around. Venerable Tendron plans to stick around as well, so we'll have an opportunity, yeah, if Robbie cooks. No pressure. And so, yes, stick around for the potluck afterwards to, join in our community here as we, kind of bid Venerable Tendron farewell. However, she will also be teaching that Wednesday night class, the 25th, I think it is. So just wanted to let everyone know. Oh, and yes, thank you, Elise. And Geshe Sangpo will be doing another Green Tar Sand Mandala right here in Raleigh at Meredith College, starting Wednesday of 25, 26, 27. Opening ceremony is on Wednesday morning at what time? 9 o'clock. Closing ceremony is on Friday at 2. So, but you can stop by any of those days between, 9 to 3-ish or so, or 2? 9 to 4-ish, 9 to 5, yeah. And witness the creation of the Green Tar Sand Mandala. Anything else, Elise? Oh yeah, we still have a few things left from our storage unit that's on the table and in the lobby that's free. Feel free to take it. If not, it's gonna go away today and be taken away to Goodwill or something. Not sure where it's gonna go. All right, anything else? Okay.
Now we can rejoice. Remember our motivation, and rejoice that we showed up and we tried to follow through on our intention and dedicate.
Okay, we're still on page 246 in the Gold Prayer Book. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain a notion of happiness and joy by virtue of our merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may these never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And now we'll go to page 244 in the Gold Prayer Book and say the long life prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Tenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And page 244, the long life prayer for Khense Rinpoche. The one who mastered his speech at a very young age, the one with great patience who received the name Avatari, the one with great precision who spread the teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa on bliss and void, Lama, ornament of the yellow hat tradition, please remain until samsara ends. And now inside the back cover, we'll say the prayer for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you are the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. And now inside the front cover, we have the long life prayers for Geshe Geluk and Geshe Sangpo. First Geshe-la. Supreme Guide, you lead us on the many paths of virtue. A shining sun, you give us the best of excellent explanations. Supreme virtuous friend, you are a constant Dharma companion. Lama who has renounced fame, may you ever remain. And for Geshe Sangpo, you who have steadfast imprints of virtuous qualities and keep the instructions of the glorious Guru in your heart, you who pass day and night with noble activities, great virtuous friend, may you have a very long life. And now 7 green Tara mantras to benefit all beings. This is on page 37 in the Gold Prayer Book. Om Tari Tu Re So Ha. 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 Om Tari Tu Re So Ha.